So we're just driving off to drop off the final documentation with Transport Canada. Inside that backpack that we have is our MSI 26 form, our proof of registration, our insurance, our weight and balance report, and a whole bunch of other stuff that you need to get the final approval to get a certificate of airworthiness. This aircraft's going to get a special certificate of airworthiness. You know, being a non-standard, non-certified airplane, it falls into a different category of flying. So yeah, we're going to submit all the documentation right now to Transport Canada. They're going to look it over for a couple of days, I think, and then we're going to schedule a meeting where we'll go in there and we'll actually talk with them about what things they want to see and things we can do and change. And then after that, they're going to come out to the hangar and they'll do a final inspection on the aircraft, which is going to go great because, you know, as you guys all know, Doug Wilson and Mike Eby working on the aircraft, and they pretty much specialize in these type of vintage Eastern Bloc aircraft and other vintage aircraft. So yeah, we are in the final stages of finally getting this airplane ready to fly. It's been a really long journey over this summer. It was supposed to have taken 20 days and we're well past that. We are probably getting into almost 160 days. But you know what? It's almost done, so. So for today, what we're expecting here on the first flight is we're going to taxi out and we're going to do another run up in the aircraft. We're going to check a few more systems, and then I'll get ready for the takeoff position with the tower. We're planning on taking off and climbing up above the airport. For today's takeoff, the aircraft at full power has a tremendous amount of acceleration and a very high thrust to weight ratio, and we're not going to utilize that today. For today, we're going to keep the power back. It's first flight in the aircraft. So we're going to take a nice, easy flight up. We're going to fly around for maybe 10 minutes or so, just getting a feel for the aircraft. I've never flown a YAK-50. I don't know any of its flight characteristics. I mean, I've been very lucky to talk with Lauren Wilson and Mike from Yakovlov's UK, but really it'll be the first chance I get to actually see what it flies like. I'll return back to the airport where it'll look like I'm going to come in and land, and I'll just go just above the runway in ground effect, and I'll do that a couple of times and then go around, and that's to get a feel of what the aircraft feels like when it's in that low flight energy regime and in the ground effect flight regime. And that's super critical for this aircraft. Because of the large prop on the aircraft has to be landed in a tail down, or what we call a 3-point landing attitude. So we'll try to just get used to what that feels like, and then we'll do a couple of maybe 3 or 4 goes at that. And then I'll set up for a longer than normal final than I would normally do in these types of airplanes. Be more like an airliner type final, and we'll set it up nice and stable and come in. We'll make that landing, and we'll return back here right away to the hangar, and then we're going to do a debrief about all the things that we did during the flight. I should mention before we go and fly this, Doug and I are going to have a private conversation about what to look for, what expectations are there, and for each one of us on how this flight's going to go. And then it's just going to be like everything else we do in these types of airplanes, whether it's flying the air shows or whether we go for a formation flight or whatever. We're gonna plan it. We're gonna brief that plan. We're gonna execute that brief and that plan, and then when we're done, we're gonna debrief it. And that's the most important part for us. And then that'll conclude for today. That last time too. Oh, extra. We're just checking we changed one of the fuel pumps in the aircraft. It's for Geoff? Transfer pump. So I'm gonna turn it on here for the right tank.
Yeah, there it goes.
Is it pumping any faster than the last one?
Yeah, it looks like it's full flow. I'll have to test it though. We could drain this tank and...
Well, I'll just leave it running here while we're sitting here.
Yeah, whatever the auto show.
It's a rocket. I never flown anything like it. I took off with 80% power, and it pinned me back like any no sports car I've ever been in. Like I was literally like this. I put the gear up and leveled it off to climb to the climb speed, and my plan was to climb to about 250 clicks and pull the nose up, and I was well over 350 before I started going up. So it's quick. Went up, flew around up top, got a feel of the controls, light and slow. It's really good. And then after that was done, we came in and we did some where we don't want to touch down. And actually on the first one, I actually touched it just for a soft second, just kind of bounced a little bit because I didn't realize, you don't know how low you are until you try it. And then I kind of went up and then went around, and the other ones were a little bit slower. And then I actually came in to land, and I didn't have the power off all the way because I was trying to do it, and it actually bounced. And I kind of held it there, and then I just made the decision to go around because this plane has so much power so I balked that landing because I didn't have the power back on that one far enough. And I'm trying to time it right so that it does that because it can do that. And climbed up, it climbs at like 45 degrees nose up. So it climbs pretty fast. Went into a downwind, came back. On that last one, I had the opportunity to set it up a little better. And I came in for the last landing, and it was an absolutely perfect three-pointer. Did you see that last one, baby? It was like, and just rolled on out. So the last one was good, but you know what? It took me, that first one I came in to land, it wasn't like that. I hadn't had the power back.
That last one was beautiful.
But I figured it out. I'm like, you know what it is? I had too much power on. So not the first one where I came in to do it and the wheels touched, but the next one where I didn't mean to do it and I just went around and I pulled up like that. I went full power on that, and it just absolutely pinned me back. It's eye-opening. Oh, my eyes are probably like this a lot of the video, and it's really responsive. And I was barely rolling it, and it rolled fairly quick. I don't know if you guys could see that up at altitude, but when I was just going from turn to turn, it just goes, and I didn't go anywhere close to full. I just went tick, 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 tick. So it's very responsive. When I did that pull at the end of the runway on the first takeoff, and I wasn't even at full power, I kept it going. And I was trying to aim to 250 clicks, and before I started the end of the runway, I was already at 350 clicks, and I pulled up, and I just barely pulled on it, but because we were going fast enough, it's 3.5 G just in that pull there. And then I actually went up to 4,000, because I blew through 3,000, because it was climbing so fast. This thing is unreal. I've never flown anything like it. It's kind of like, if the closest I can say with this airplane is it's got like the raw power of the P-51, like where it puts you in your seat and it just goes, but it has the responsiveness and roll and pitch like an extra 300 would. Well, that's the only high-performance aerobatic plane I've flown is the extra 300. Well, it pitch too, but like the extra 300, it has that really, really tight coupling. But those aerobatic airplanes don't have the acceleration this does. This is like exactly what they said it was. It's a cross between a World War II fighter and an aerobatic airplane. It's kind of like in between. But I mean, it goes. Like in the downwinds when I was going, he was telling the other aircraft, like, hey, can you widen it out? And because I'm looking at everything in a different speed, I looked down on my watch and I had the power back. I was doing 185 knots at like 70% and 70%. Like 350 clicks.
But no temperature snags or indications?
No, all the indications were fine. I mean, when you pull the power back and you put the prop up, there's a bit of a push like that, but that does that in Mitch's airplane too. Yeah. I think that's M14 and the big prop.
Yeah.
But no, there was no problem. When I pulled the power back at one point, it went, man, the engine is responsive. But like even on that first one where I went around, because I was meant to come in over the ground effect, and then the wheels touched for just a second, and it kind of like skipped. And so I'm like, oh, I'm too low, and I put the power up. I didn't even bring the power up. I moved the power halfway up, and I was pushing me back hard enough that I thought that was it. And then I realized that I still had 200 millimeters of pressure more to go. Get there! All right. With my big diaper.
Okay. Okay, Geoff, now you've officially become a yak driver.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's amazing. What a great feeling. Well, I've got you here, Lauren Wilson in England, and MK Aerobatics over also in England with the team YAK-50. You guys were a huge help. Thanks for the information there. And, also some tips and trips I got from Ross Granley. Of course, he's the master, right? So he had some great stuff to share with the airplane. And then, obviously, I want to thank my wife, Lanny, and Evan, Doug Wilson, who's amazing. He got this plane. I mean, this plane, every plane he touches wants for nothing. And Mikey from Wilson Aviation, they're incredible. And obviously you, Kyle from Airshow Addict, thanks for helping out. You were more than just someone who filmed this to get to this first flight. You were an integral part of the team by helping us put the plane together and helping us with all kinds of projects. So yeah, lots of thanks to be said. I'm sure I missed somebody there, but it's an incredible feeling, and it's amazing to be patched in the yak. So yeah, here we are. We got that first flight done. It was a ton of work, and no!
Not the bucket.